BuzzFeed decided that they wanted to give Shelly a knuckle sandwich for brunch, for food. That was her meal, was a knuckle sandwich. Essentially saying that she deserves to be punched in the face because of the fact that he's a dark-skinned black man, 6'9" basketball player archetype. He's supposed to just have wanted to do it. I just feel like it is dangerous to put these folks in these situations where you know there is a hyper visible lens being put on them, and then you don't put the measures in place to make sure that they feel safe. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, Miss Amarachi. If you're new here, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, hit that post notification button so you're notified every time I post a new video. So as you all can see from the title, today I'm talking about something that I've been wanting to talk about for a minute, and being as though Love Island USA season 7 just ended and they had the reunion a few days ago, I was like, this is the perfect time to do it because this topic was reinforced by, this topic was reinforced by the things that went down at the reunion and what has happened, like I said, since the show ended. It's really important that this topic is talked about. It's very important that this issue is brought to light because I feel like a lot of people are saying the thing, but they're not talking about the thing. And so I wanted to talk about it because, as y'all know, I'm never afraid to talk about, sticky topics. So let's get into the dangers of being black and dark skinned on reality TV. Like I said, being as though Love Island USA just ended, I'll be using Love Island USA season 7 contestants as a backdrop for this conversation, but make no mistake, I could pick contestants from pretty much any reality TV show, whether it's Bachelor, Bachelorette, whether it's Love is Blind, whether it's Love Island, whether it's The Perfect Match, whether it's Are You the One, even, actual competition shows that are not about love. So Survivor and The Challenge. Being black and dark skinned is dangerous when you are on reality TV. And in the end, I will give you all my feelings and sentiments on whether black and dark skinned people should continue to go on these shows. But I'll leave that for the end. So let's get into it. As I said, today I'll be talking about Love is Blind USA season 7, specifically the contestants Shelly, Olandria, and Chris. And I'm going to use different examples with each of them to show you how dangerous it was for this dark-skinned black person to be on reality TV and the unfortunate ramifications that came with their actions or lack thereof on the show. So first, starting off with Shelly, for those who don't know. Shelly is from New York. No, she's from Miami. She's based in New York. 27 or 28. She was 27 on the show. She did match up with somebody, Ace, another black man, but I would call him brown skin. There was some rumors that Ace and Shelly were scamming America because they had met before in New York a few years ago, before the pandemic, and Ace tried to holler at her and she really wasn't with it, and then they went about their separate ways, all to then, come back on this show. And the first thing that they said when they saw each other was, "I know you." Cool. Because of this scamming allegation, I believe this was one of the things that fueled the hatred for Shelly. As well as the fact that she's a dark-skinned black woman who was unapologetic, who was exploring on the show, which is what the show was supposed to be about, and didn't allow people to talk to her any type of way, didn't allow certain situations to just be pushed under the rug, really pushed the envelope in slight and subtle ways, and was still labeled as an angry black woman because that is what they do to black women on reality TV. Now, while we were on the show, there was a pretty pivotal argument, for lack of better terms, a pretty pivotal situation that occurred that kind of turned America, I believe, against Shelly. So essentially what happened was there was a challenge where, you know, you had to raise people's heart rate, and there was a contestant, Huda, who is, this is very important to say, that she's of Palestinian descent. I wouldn't say you can tell that she's ethnic. She's not fully white, but she can't, like, she is white passing. Like, you could, like, she's, or actually not white passing, she's afforded the privileges of a lot of white people, even though she is not, you know, ethnically white. But anyway, there was a situation where Huda decided to go overboard with Shelly's then connection, Ace. And by that time, they had been locked in pretty much. Even though Shelly was still exploring other people, it was pretty obvious that Ace and Shelly were a thing and going to be a thing. And so after the challenge, Shelly raised some concerns to Huda and to the other girls about how frustrating and angry she was that Huda went that far with her partner, especially because up until then, every connection Huda had, it was honestly very toxic, but all the girls respected her partner. And even when new girls came in, Huda would bully them and would talk about them and would call them out of their names, and those girls would quickly realize that her partner was off limits. And so the reason why Shelly was so frustrated was because Huda didn't afford the same grace to her as she has done to Huda. From that, America painted Shelly as angry, as hypocritical, as doing too much, and the public started to turn on her. So much so that there was a prominent publication, BuzzFeed News, BuzzFeed social media, that featured all of the contestants that were on the show at that time. And one thing that's like really big on Love Island, for those who don't watch, is making breakfast. So the boys usually make breakfast for the girls every morning. And so BuzzFeed did a little social media post where they gave everybody different types of breakfast. And BuzzFeed, and I'm going to insert the clip somewhere around here, BuzzFeed decided that they wanted to give Shelly a knuckle sandwich for brunch, for food. That was her meal, was a knuckle sandwich. Essentially saying that she deserves to be punched in the face because of the actions that they deemed wrong and bully-like, right? Now, a lot of people might say, oh, that's just a funny, cheeky joke, like, you know, that's just something funny. I don't find that funny because it is very, very known that domestic violence against black women is rampant. And anybody with an understanding of blackness, anybody who has studied blackness, knows the quote by Malcolm X, which says, the most disrespected in the world is the black woman. And so for BuzzFeed to go online and to do these cute little breakfast, lunch inspired posts for all the other contestants, but to give a dark-skinned black woman a knuckle sandwich is intentional and is adding and aiding to the hatred that this woman was already getting, right? So now people are running around laughing about how Shelly needs a knuckle sandwich because she stood up for herself. She defended her relationship. She didn't allow Huda, who up until that time had been terrorizing the house, terrorizing everybody, calling people out of their names. Let's talk about Jeremiah, who's a black man, not dark skinned, but a black man. Huda was going around calling this man every type of cuss word known to man. Nobody people raised a red flag, but in the public's eyes, she didn't really it wasn't that serious. Like, they just gave her a slap on the wrist. Even production, right? She is creating a hostile work environment, because let's not get it twisted. These people are working there, are getting paid for their time there, right? She created a hostile work environment and was able to make it to the finale. In what world does that make sense? Only in the world of somebody who is afforded white privilege. But you see, Shelly wasn't given that same opportunity, right? Shelly wasn't given that same grace by America. In fact, Peacock played into the fact that Shelly and Alondra were seen as mean girls and continued giving Huda this nice edit, trying to bring her back on a redemption arc, even though we watched her terrorize everybody in the house, right? Versus Alondra and Shelly, Peacock and the public played into this hatred that they were getting, which then again spewed out and continued when they left. So that is one example of how being a dark-skinned black woman was dangerous for Shelly on Love is Blind, USA Season 7. Let's go to Olandria. Olandria was a lot quieter on the show. She was you could tell she was being very conscious about the fact that she was a black woman, a dark-skinned black woman on this show, watched by millions across the globe, right? And so a lot of the things that she was doing, I could tell were intentional because she didn't want to stir up anybody to make it seem like she was this angry black girl, right? Peacock allowed the viewers to believe that Olandria was just a dummy, right? There were times where Taylor, who was her main connection on the show until she got with Nick, would say things like, I'm not attracted to her, right? But would never tell Olandria. Or he would breadcrumb her, which is like, you give a little and then like you let them like eat those little crumbs, and then when there's potential competition, which Jalen was a competition that came in, he fit this description of what she was looking for: a country man from the South, you know, all types of things. When Jalen came in, Taylor would breadcrumb Olandria a little bit more, right? Give her a little bit more just to make her seem like, I still like you, even though he didn't want her, for real. He didn't want her. And then would rope her back in. And then when there was no more connections for her, he would go off doing whatever he wanted, right? Now, Olandria kept her composure the whole time, except when it finally clicked to her that Taylor was playing games, and that was after Casa Moore, when Taylor found a connection he actually did like, which also happened to be what? A non-dark-skinned black woman. Anyway, for those who don't know, also, Taylor is not dark-skinned. He's a black man, but he's brown-skinned, right? Okay. And also, just another quick note, I know that people might be hearing me emphasize their skin tone, but it's important that I emphasize their skin tone because it all ties back to how certain people of certain skin tones were afforded certain things and were given grace in a lot of aspects that these dark-skinned black people were not given, right? Because even when I talk about Taylor, the fact that Taylor is brown-skinned but was putting this dark-skinned woman through hell, right, was lying to her, was not telling the truth, and still to this day have not even given her an actual apology, and folks are not giving him as much hell as they are giving Olandria and Shelly, who literally did nothing wrong on the show. It shows me that, once again, your skin tone does play a big part in a big role in how you're treated during and after the show. But anyway, so Olandria finally, her issue came to a head during the Stand on Business challenge, and that's when she decided to go off on Taylor, basically like telling him, who do you pick, me or Clark? Because you're telling me that you want to explore both of us, but you're obviously not telling that to other people. And that's finally when Taylor said, I pick Clark, right? Okay, cool. After that challenge, social media turned on Olandria. I never turned, because I always knew. I was standing with my sister. But social media turned on Olandria, right? And social media started painting her out again as this angry black woman. Another reason why social media turned on her in that same challenge is because she called out Huda for something that she did, right? Up until then, Huda had been acting like she brought Chris back for Shelly, when in actuality, Huda wanted Chris, and she didn't make that 100% known to the general public. And so Huda had told Olandria that she kissed Chris, and so Olandria brought it out into the public and said, have you told Shelly that you kissed Chris, right? That was another reason why social media started to turn on Olandria, because up until then she was everyone's sweetheart, but when she turned on the woman who everyone had decided to give a second chance, Huda, then Huda's fans started to be racist towards Olandria and Shelly, right? Now, this is when things really started turning dark for Love Island, as well as Huda's fans coming against Olandria and Shelly. There was a meme posted by one of Huda's fans of Olandria's face on George Floyd's face and Huda's face on Derek Chauvin's face. For those of you who don't know what I'm referring to, then I don't know what rock you've been living under. But that is a image that was put. There was images of other racist, bigot, it was so much racism going on that was coming from Huda's fan base that these Islanders didn't even know they were about to walk into. And this is why I say it's dangerous as a whole across all networks, because I've seen and I've noticed that whenever there is huge racism that is being spewed and thrown at these contestants, these networks rarely, if ever, step out and step up and say, we do not condone racism. We've been seeing what's going on, and you're not going to tell me these people don't see what's going on, because they do. They absolutely do see what's going on. They don't say anything. They don't condone. They don't, tell people like, we don't condone this. We don't support this. We support all our Islanders. We love all Islanders. No. But I'm going to let you all in on a secret if you didn't know, or let you all know something that you may not have known. When Huda was getting bullied on social media, Peacock put out a notice. And I'm going to put the notice somewhere on the screen. Peacock put out a notice basically saying we do not condone bullying. We do not condone what's going on. So when Huda was getting it, the woman who is afforded white privileges, right? When Huda is getting bullied, we put it out. We tell everybody we're not supporting it. When Olandria and Shelly are getting death threats, racism, bigotry is being spewed at them, Peacock to this day, correct me if I'm wrong, hasn't spoken out about it, right? To then have Olandria come out, see all this racism, ask Huda, her and Shelly asked Huda, tell your fans we're actually cool. And what did Huda do? The opposite, which is nothing. And then got on a reunion and said, I didn't know about the George Floyd thing. Yes, you did, because I told you. That's what Olandria said. You didn't know, I told you. Right? Oh, I was dealing with racism too. No, you weren't, number one. And number two, how does that, but you didn't put out a message about us. You didn't put out no message, right? To then end it with, well, I was getting bullied by you all too. And then she just made up some BS about how she was being bullied on the show by Shelly. But once again, when she was going on podcasts, she being Huda, when Huda was going on podcasts saying she was being bullied, she never put a name to it. So people just assumed, based on what they saw on the show, that it was Shelly and Olandria. And what did that fuel? More racism. More racism. Rolling Stone just put out an article and redacted it, but we still saw it, that says something to the effect of, and I'm going to put it up somewhere, something to the effect of like, why Middle Easterns are not supported on these shows or something like that. And put Leah from last season, who we know is one of the biggest allies, and Huda on the cover, right? Painting it as if the Middle Eastern folks are not getting supported, they're getting racism. And then in the article wrote about how Shelly and Olandria's fans were being racist towards Huda and other Middle Eastern folks. This is what I'm saying when I say it's dangerous as a whole, because now publications, BuzzFeed, Rolling Stone, starting to put out lies. Now podcasters are starting to add fire or adding fuel to the fire, right? There was even a interview that Ariana did with Today's Show or ET during the season, where she was essentially like adding fire to the fuel of Shelly and Huda's situation, issue, talking about how Shelly should be jealous of, or Shelly, I would be jealous if I was Shelly because of the heart rate challenge, and saying that, oh, Shelly was slow to burn, so she can't be mad that Huda did what she did on Ace. Once again, this is the face of the network. These are major publications. You are adding fuel to the fire, all right? Okay. Last person I'm going to talk about is Chris. And trigger warning. This has a lot, I will be talking a little bit about sexual, things, right? So if that's something that's triggering to you, you can go ahead and just skip this part, right? In the show, Chris is a dark-skinned man. tall. I think he said he's 6'9", basketball player. To anyone with eyes, he's handsome, right? He is who every race of women would go after. He is the basketball player archetype, right? Think of LeBron. Like, he is like a man who, like, if he knew how to play basketball, he would be, you know, someone people be fawning over, right? So he comes as a Casa Moore boy. He instantly wants Shelly. After a while, he realizes Shelly's eyes are not turning from Ace, so then he goes to Hood. Hood is so happy because she finally has a connection in the house. She didn't have one up until then. There was a situation that occurred where we saw on camera, what's her name? Hood trying to wake up Chris. They were laying in the bed. Hood is shaking him. Come on, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. He's like, I don't want to. I'm tired. I want to sleep. She's like, I'm going to count to 3 and you need to turn over. 1. She literally counts. 2, 3. He's like, bruh, I'm literally tired. I want to sleep. We now know that the contestants were only given 2 hours of sleep that night. He wanted to get sleep. Baby, if I don't get at least 6 hours of sleep, I'm irritated. You're talking about 2 hours after being up all day and night? She's still fussing. Then she says something like, if me being mad at you tomorrow is worth you not turning over and giving me attention, I'm paraphrasing, then get ready because you're in for it tomorrow. Essentially telling him, if you don't turn over, I'm going to have an attitude, I'm going to be mad at you. And just get ready for what I'm finna do to you. Okay. Now that I gave you that context, I want to give y'all the definition of something. Because it seems like, coupled with the fact that he's a dark-skinned black woman, dark-skinned black man, him being a man, unfortunately, for people, they don't understand that sexual assault, sexual coercion, and